Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being on with us on today's seminar as we go over the PERA COLA overview, also known as the cost of living adjustment. We have a great lineup of speakers for you today, and just some housekeeping for you all before we go ahead and begin. We are recording today's seminar, so please keep in mind, especially for your colleagues who couldn't make it onto today's seminar, it will be recorded and posted on our video library as soon as, as early as tomorrow morning. We will get that on for you all. If you have questions during today's seminar, we do have a Q&A function, which you can find by either scrolling at the top of your screen or the bottom of your screen. So please feel free to share any questions that you have. And then we'll also allow some time after today's seminar for those of you who would like to pose any questions to any of our panelists today. So with that being said, we are going to be going over several topics on today's seminar. We'll be giving you the history of the cost of living adjustment, also going over all of the new COLA adjustment guidelines. And then we're also going to share a really neat website of ours known as PERA at a Glance, and just provide you with some overall beneficial information to you, either as an active member or as a retired member. So before we begin, I just want to let you all know who is going to be presenting today on behalf of PERA. So we have Greg Trujillo, who is our executive director, and he is going to be on with us. We also have Anna Williams, who is our deputy director, who is also going to share some information with you. And then we also have Michael Shackelford, and he is our chief investments officer as well. So like I said, a great lineup of great speakers. And with that being said, I am going to go ahead and hand it over to Greg Trujillo, our executive director.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We know COLAs are very important to our members, not just retirees, but actives. We all want to retire at some point, get our benefit, and also hopefully share in getting a cost of living adjustment. So we're going to talk about PERA's cost of living adjustment kind of through time for a couple minutes, and then I'll turn it over to Michael. So for those of you that have been following us for a while, you will realize we are now 76. Last year we celebrated our 75th anniversary. PERA is now 76. We've had a number of revisions to our cost of living adjustment through that time. We've gone from flat percentage cost of living adjustments, tied it to CPI, tied it to the amount of dollars you make. It has evolved over time, just like our membership has evolved over the time. So you'll see this first chart. First COLA was awarded in 1965. 6 adjustments through 1979. So first 15 years of the COLA, we had 6 adjustments. So it's not anything unique to PERA. If you go to the next slide, Christina. And then another 6 adjustments since then. And for those of you that have followed PERA, for those of you that have followed pension reform, the cost of living adjustment is very sensitive. Very important to our members, and I just want to assure everybody out there that's listening, we're not over here at PERA thinking about how we're going to mess with your COLA. Anytime that the COLA is changed, anytime we have to increase contribution rates, it is for a reason. We want our members to get every dime that they are eligible for. The cost of living adjustment is a nice perk on top of that. We know members rely on that, but what we really want to concentrate on is making sure that the base benefit that you are working for, you will receive for the rest of your life and the rest of your beneficiary's life. And so just a couple thoughts, not to rehash pension reform, but just to look back, I believe the last 20 or so years. If you go to the next one, Christina. So this is our funded ratio, these bars going up. And what the funded ratio is if you think about it like a mortgage, that is how much of the house that we own. If you look at 1999, 2000, we owned more than we owed on the house. We owned that. We've had a lot of issues since then. There was some benefit enhancements back in the mid-90s that were not properly funded. You all had probably heard of the dot-com bubble, 2008. If you'll see right there, the Great Recession, a lot of issues, and you'll see that our funded ratio had trended down. In 2013, there was a significant round of pension reform. It was Senate Bill 27 of the 2013 legislature. And you'll recall we introduced a new tier of benefits. Newer members that started in 2013, they have to work longer and they get lesser amount when they retire. Not easy decisions. Nobody on the call today was part of that, but it was a critical reform. Unfortunately, it didn't go as far as it probably needed to. In 2020, there was another pension reform right before COVID, and same thing. We restructured the COLA, and we made active members pay in more as well as their employers. So it has been an evolution, not just cost of living adjustment, but everything that's happened with contributions and eligibility requirements and different plans that have been introduced through, the 76-year history of PERA. Next slide, Christina. And this chart, I think, is kind of explains it more. If you look back in 2000, we were paying 17,265 retirees. The active members were just under 43,000. And that trend is kind of decreased. You'll see our active membership is kind of fluctuated, but our retirees grow every single month. Every single month we hit a new high watermark in retirees. And if not this year, then probably by next year. If you see right now, we're about 43,000 retirees, just under 48,000 active members paying in. In about 2 years, those lines are going to cross. So we are going to be paying more retirees than we have active members paying into the system. And so that was really the reason for Senate Bill 72 in 2020. It's something that we knew was coming, and it's something that we're going to have to navigate through this decade. About 2030 is when we expect our actives to then overtake our retirees again, but we're going to have probably 5-6 years where we are paying out more members than we have active membership paying into the plan. So just I don't want to rehash pension reform, but that is something that we're navigating, something that's not unique to us. All pension funds across the country are dealing with this. You probably hear about Social Security. In New Mexico, we're fortunate that most of our people also participate in Social Security, but it's just a demographic issue that the country is struggling with. All right, next one, Christina. And so Senate Bill 27, just to recap, it increased contributions. At that point in time, it did modify the COLA. Our members were getting a 3% cost of living adjustment, no matter what our returns were, no matter whether or not PERA could afford to pay that 3%. And it introduced a new tier of benefits. So as I said earlier, your tier 1, tier 2, you all are probably familiar with that. So made a lot of adjustments. And I will say, PERA still, the benefit that we pay under tier 1 is probably the best in the country. Under tier 2 is probably top 5 in the country. And you pay a lot for that. I'm sure you see what comes out of your check. But both tier 1, tier 2 are near the top retirement benefits in the country. But it was difficult. Pension reform is not fun. Changing benefits for members is not fun. But that was what I would call pension reform 1.0. Next slide, Christina. And then 2020, we had pension reform 2.0. Again, it modified the COLA. It went from a 2% flat cost of living adjustment to now being based on our investment returns and our funded ratio. Again, our funded ratio is the percentage of how much we owe on the house. Right now, we own 70%. we still have another 30% we still have to purchase. So that's why that cost of living adjustment was changed. It's now a 0.5%, up to 3%, depending on those two factors, our investment return and our funded ratio. We do have another tier of COLA now. Any member that earns less than $25,000 and worked a full 25-year career gets a 2.5% cost of living adjustment compounded. Any disability retiree that earns less than 25,000 gets that same 2.5% COLA, and any retiree that was age 75 or older as of June 30th of 2020 is grandfathered into that 2.5% COLA. Of course, that's a shrinking population, but the governor, when she endorsed this package, she's made it clear that she wanted to protect our most vulnerable pension recipients. And again, as you all are probably aware, we are taking a 2% more out of your checks, phased in over a 4-year period for state employees. Same thing with county members and municipal members. So state employees are in the 3rd year of that increase, and county and municipal members are in the 1st year of that increase. Their employers also share in that increase. So by 2026, we will be paying in 2% more for active members and 2% more on behalf of, or their employers on behalf of us. So a 4% increase in contributions by 2026. And if you look at the bottom of this graph, like say 70% right now is what we own of the house. Our funding period, you can think about that is 59 years. That is how long it will take for us to own the house fully. And I think that's all I've got till the end, and I'll turn it over, Christina.
Great, thank you so much, Greg, and we will hand it over to you, Michael.
Hi, thank you. Christina, next slide, please, and we'll get into the details of how to calculate the new COLA. So Senate Bill 72 changed the COLA. Senate Bill 72's COLA change goes into effect July 1st of this year. So this will be the first time that this new COLA is calculated. The calculation is based on, as Greg mentioned, based on the performance of the fund. So the investment returns, and it also includes provision for the funded ratio. So the minimum that the COLA can be is 0.5%, and the maximum it can be is 3%, as long as the fund is under 100% funded. If it goes over 100% funded, then it can have a maximum of 5%. But as Greg mentioned, that's about 60 years away. As he also mentioned, the governor wanted to protect the most vulnerable participants. So there is a provision for those who are disabled retirees and retirees who make less than $25,000 in their pension payments. They have a flat COLA of 2.5%. And it also protects retirees who are 75 or older on or before June 30, 2020, when the law took effect. And they also receive a flat 2.5% COLA. Next slide, please. So the rules of the COLA are, it adjusts every July. It adjusts the gross pension benefits of all eligible retirees to include a COLA that notifies eligible participants via mail. There is a 2-year calendar COLA eligibility period for members who retire under normal retirement. Unless you retire due to disability and you are 65 or older prior to your first COLA, then that eligibility period is reduced to 1 calendar year. The COLA is only on pension amounts paid to service credits under the employee's retirement plan, the magistrate retirement plan, and the judicial retirement plan. Next slide, please. So the new COLA rules, as again, it goes into effect this July. So this will be the first calculation for it. It has a minimum of 0.5%. The ratio, as long as the funded ratio of the plan is under 100%, which currently is 70%, the maximum it can be is 3%. And if once it goes over 100%, so in 60 years, if it goes over 100% funded status, then the maximum will be 5%. Next slide. So what does the law say exactly? So Senate Bill 72 says the cost of living adjustment to qualify to a qualified pension recipient payable pursuant to the Public Employees Retirement Act shall be determined as an amount equal to the smoothed investment rate of return on the actuarial value of assets on June 30th of the preceding calendar year, less the cost of living adjustment hurdle as determined by the association's actuaries, multiplied by the funded ratio on June 30 of the preceding calendar year, or 0.5%. That's 0.5%, whichever is greater. So what does that mean? Next slide, please. So what it means is, if we break it down, the actuarial value of assets, that's the fund balance. That's the balance of the fund at each fiscal year end as determined by PERA's actuaries. What's the actuarial liabilities? That's the present value of all the pension liabilities that PERA has. So all the pension payments that PERA has now and expects to have in the future is then there's a calculation called a present value calculation to determine what the total liabilities of the plan are. And those are also determined by the PERA's actuaries. And then what's the funded ratio? This is calculated by dividing the asset value, so the fund balance, divided by the actuarial liabilities. And as Greg mentioned, at fiscal year end 2022, so last fiscal year end, it was 70%. So the value of our assets is only 70% of the value of our liabilities. So what's the smooth investment return? That's the average, the 5-year average of our investment returns as calculated by the plan actuaries. So smoothing is just another term for averaging. So they're averaging the 5-year returns, so the average annual return for the last 5 years. And lastly, what's the COLA hurdle rate? This is the investment return that we need to achieve to pay out that minimum 0.5% in COLA. So those are all the important terms in the law. So next slide, please. So how do we put those terms to work in this calculation? So the calculation that the law speaks about is you take the smooth rate of return and you subtract the cost of living adjustment hurdle, and then you multiply the funded ratio, and that gives you a number. And then you check to see if that number is higher or lower than 0.5%. If it's higher than 0.5%, then you pay that number. If it's lower than 0.5%, you pay 0.5%. So next slide, please. So if we look at some actual numbers as an example, so this example shows if the smooth investment return were 6.15% and the COLA hurdle rate was 7.15%, then you would subtract 7.15% from 6.15%. That would give you -1%. And then what you would do is you would multiply by the funded ratio. So the funded ratio currently is 70%. So you multiply -1% times 70%, and that gives you an initial COLA calculation of -0.1%. So then you compare that to 0.5%. So 0.5% is greater than -0.7%. So in this example, the COLA would be 0.5%. Because of the calculation and the smooth return is lower than the hurdle and the funded ratio is less than 100%, that gives you a number that's lower than 0.5%. So you would pay the minimum 0.5%. Next slide, please. Yep, that's it. So I guess I'm done. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Michael. Appreciate it. So next, we're gonna listen listen on to Miss Anna Williams, our Deputy Director.
Thanks, Christina. Good afternoon, everyone. Christina, do you want to move to the next slide? Thanks. So PERA at a Glance is PERA's new webpage that was launched this year. This fall, PERA met with Colorado PERA to see how they communicate with their members. Based on working with Colorado PERA, our outreach team and our financial team created our financial snapshot page, so PERA at a Glance page. This page was meant to be interactive to help engage our members when reviewing information about our financial position. And it also mirrors many of the items that we have listed in our popular annual financial report. Christina, do you want to go to the webpage? We'll walk through it. So this is our PERA at a Glance webpage that we created. First up, we have information on the executive director, and then we have tabs, year in review, investment. It provides our funding status, membership, financials, economic impact, and additional resources. So when you click on those yellow ones, so if you want to go to investments, Christina, on the yellow, there we go. This will take us to the investment section and kind of provides us a snapshot of how our investments are doing for the year end and over the last 5, 7, 30 years, year to date. So it's interactive, you can move along and see. Also gives us where we're located at June 30th in the market. So what stocks we're in or investment we're in. You want to click on the funding. Christina, thanks. And this will provide our funding status for our plans. PERA's plan, the funding status at June 30th, our magistrate, judicial, legislative, and volunteer firefighters. If you want to go to the next one, membership. This one's kind of fun. Scroll down just a tad more. Yeah. This will provide a glance of what membership is in each division. So we have the PERA division, PERA fund that has various divisions. And so it'll say for the state general, how many total members we have, how many retirees in the state general plan, active and inactive. And you can go around and see all the different memberships we have for all the different plans. And it kind of gives a great overview of our membership total. All right, next, financials. Thanks, Christina. And this is just a snapshot of our financials. That if you go to our AFR report, our financial audit report, this will be there, but this is just a summary of contributions that we've taken in, investment income, how much we paid out in benefits, and refund of contributions and administration expenses. And then the next, economic impact, which is always a fun one. I like this one because it kind of shows where the funding of PERA goes into each county. So all the retirees' benefits and how it supports those counties. Because each year or last year, we paid out about $1.3 billion in benefits, and about 91% of those stayed within New Mexico. So this is just a great way to see where are those PERA funds going. And if you want to go back to the PowerPoint. And then next slide. And this is an overview of, if you haven't, we have PERA Real self-service account. So this provides information on how to go to our PERA self-service page, and you can log into PERA Real login and kind of see and add information for yourself, upload your changes for your taxes or direct deposits here. If you haven't gotten a Rio account, please look into doing so. It's very beneficial. And next slide. And PERA's locations and contact information. So PERA has 2 offices, one in Santa Fe and one in Albuquerque. We are open to the public right now, and we take in walk-ins. Also at both offices, we have retiree healthcare. So if you are needing to drop off stuff for PERA and also retiree healthcare, it's one-stop shop at both locations. Next slide. And our PERA website page is listed here. This is great information on, PERA at a glance, so you can see our financials. You can go more in depth to our AFR report, our actuarial reports, or log into your self-service or your Smart Save account. I think next slide, Christina. And PERA is on social media. So we have Twitter, Facebook. You can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn. We provide up-to-date information on there about office closures or information on COLA information or our financial reports. Great way to learn about PERA, and follow us on social media. And thank you everybody for attending, and I'll turn it over back to Christina.
Great. Thank you so much, Anna, and thank you to all of our presenters today. We'd also like to give a big shout out. We have a few of our very own PERA staff on here as well. We have our Deputy Chief Investment Officer, Leanne Laranyaga-Ruffy, and we also have Natalie Padilla and Christina Gauthier out of our outreach division as well. So I'd like to thank them for being on with us. And with that being said, we'll go ahead and open it up to any questions that you all have. All you got to do is just raise your hand and notify us that you have a question. All it takes is for you to scroll either at the top of your screen or the bottom of your screen, and you'll see a little raise hand function. You can go ahead and press that, and then we will go ahead and unmute you. So I already see some hands up, or maybe they took them down. I saw it really quick, so please feel free to raise your hand and we will get your questions answered. And don't be shy. A question that you may have, someone else may have the exact same question. So don't be shy to ask your question. Okay, Miss Rosie Flores, I am going to allow you to go ahead and ask your question.
So on the Rio, when you can log in to look at your own account, if you have a retirement that's part county and part state, can you calculate it with Rio, or is there another way to do that rather than just you doing the formulas in the book?
And Miss Christina, would you be able to answer that one for us?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. So because PERA is logging everyone's account by their social security number, all of your records, presuming you're using the same social security number everywhere you go to work, those records are being tracked in your bucket. And so the self-service portal, when it is making the calculation for an estimate of benefits, it's capturing not only your final average salary for your tier of membership, but all the other parts of your account, including all of the plans you worked under. Something that we didn't cover in this presentation, but PERA technically has 31 plans. The state of New Mexico, most of its current employees contribute under State Plan 3, unless you are a state police officer, correctional officer, or probation and parole officer, or a peace officer. And so the majority of the state's employees are earning 3% per year of service credits. Some of our municipalities also have Municipal Plan 3, which has a similar 3% multiplier. And so our self-service portal is pretty good about reading all the data behind the scenes and helping you calculate your estimate of benefits. But one surefire way to get that information in an audited fashion is to submit a request form when you are within 3 years of retirement eligibility. But to answer your question, I would say the self-service portal is fairly accurate where it stands.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Great question. And then for those of you who are unaware, your self-service portal, a new feature that we rolled out earlier this year, gives you the ability to estimate the cost of military service credit as well as airtime service credit. So if you are interested in purchasing service credit to speed up your retirement eligibility or to enhance your overall retirement benefits, those features are available in the self-service portal as well. And if you are ready to submit a request form or your application for pension or other forms and documentation, that feature has also been activated in our self-service portal. And so you can actually upload your forms using the last link on the left-hand side once you're logged into your account. So great question.
Thank you, Ms. Christina. We have another question from Juanita, and I believe I unmuted you, so please go ahead and feel free to ask your question.
Oh, hi, good afternoon. Thanks for the presentation. I would like to go back to the scenario of the calculation that, you know, granted that none of us going to live to be 59 years from now on. So under this type of formula, how well the 5-year average of investment return have to be in order for us to get COLA above 0.5%?
Yes, good question. So it will have to get the smooth investment return above the COLA hurdle. So if you can imagine an investment return on 8% or so, if it was 8.15%, you subtract 7.15% for that, you'd have a 1% number. You multiply that times the 70% funded ratio, you would have a positive 0.7%. That would be higher than 0.5%. So the COLA that year would be 0.7% instead of 0.5%. So getting the smooth return above the investment, above the COLA rate is the first job. And you may or may not watch some of our investment committee meetings or our board meetings, but last year in October, we went to the board with a new strategic asset allocation, so a mix of our portfolio assets. And we asked for a new asset allocation that we believe will generate a return that's above that 7.15% COLA hurdle. So that's the hope over the future, is to get an investment return above that number, and that would generate a COLA above 0.5%.
I have a follow-up question. If I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you.
I was just going to say one more thing. As Greg mentioned, as we go through time, we will get higher and higher above 70%, right? So it may take 60 years or 50 years to get to 100%, but we can certainly over the next decade or so get closer to 80%, and then from there 90%, and then there to 100% over that 60 years. So if we get up to 75%, up to 80%, that will also help, you know, in that calculation to get you above the 0.5%.
Thank you. You kind of partially answering my second question. So my second question is that for the funded ratio right now is 70%. What are the factors that determining on whether we're going to get up to 100%? Because it's just obviously like what you said, it depends on two factors, the market return as well as the funded ratio.
Yeah, so the funded ratio is going to be a function of not just the investment returns, but also the benefit payments that we have to make. So that was the important part of Senate Bill 27 and Senate Bill 72. Both of those bills sought to make the ultimate payouts lower for future retirees, which is why you have a tier 1 and a tier 2, which is why, you know, the calculation for tier 1 is 3%, whereas for tier 2 it's 2.5%. You know, that you have a longer period to vest, I believe. So I think tier ones vest in a shorter period than tier twos. But the problem is that there are a lot of tier ones still working and yet to retire. And so as those people retire, it's sort of like the baby boomers. It's sort of like the proverbial pig through the snake. You've got a big chunk of people who are getting the best pension calculation that still need to go through before you get to the tier twos, who have a pretty good pension, but not as good as tier ones. And so when those people become the predominant active members, then that will help the calculation as well. So the funded ratio is a calculation of current payments out to retirees and future benefits to future retirees, and then they use a present value calculation to bring it forward and match that against current assets. And so investment returns are still important. The other thing that's important about our investment returns is that we have to pay out about 3.5% to make up the difference between the contributions from employers and employees versus the payments to current retirees. So there's not enough money coming in the door from contributions from employers and employees to make benefit payments to current retirees. So that difference has to be made up out of the investment portfolio, and that's about 3.5% per year. So instead of adding that 3.5% to the asset value, it's subtracted and made in payouts to current retirees. So that's a little bit of stepping backwards. Every time you take 2 steps back forward, you take a step back. But as I say, those 2 Senate bills that change the tier ones and tier twos and all those other calculations, eventually they'll help. Eventually they'll come through and they'll help, and it'll make it easier and easier to reach a fully funded status. That was a long-winded answer for your question, but I hope I answered it.
Thanks. And I have one more question, but there are a lot of people that want to ask questions now. So I'm going to stop. And if you don't have lack of people asking questions, I'll come back to this.
Thank you so much, Juanita, for those great questions. It doesn't look like we have any other hands up, but please feel free to raise your hand and we can go ahead and unmute you. Miss Marie, I'm going to go ahead and allow you to go ahead and speak.
Thank you. If we want to talk to someone in person about the deferred comp, who would that be?
Yes, Marie. So we have quite a few people that we can connect you with. I will ask actually with our chat, what you could do is you could talk with one of our deferred comp representatives, and we can go ahead and set you up to talk with them, but you can come into our office. But they actually might refer you to talk with our deferred comp representatives, which are actually through Voya. But what I will do, Marie, is we will go ahead and private message you our email address. And if you just send us an email, and we can have one of our representatives reach out to you if you would like.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
What is that? What would that email be?
Yeah, what I'm going to do now, Marie, is I'm going to go ahead and actually message you, but you can email us. I will bring up our contact information. If you could please email us at para-memberservices@state.nm.us. It will reach myself and my other team members, and we can go ahead and get you set up with a Smart Save Voya representative.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay, I see Karen has her hand up, so I'm going to go ahead, Miss Karen, and let you speak. I think you just have to unmute yourself, Karen.
Hi, Christina, it's Karen with Deferred Comp. You can post the Smart Save email address also.
You know what, that for some weird reason on our big webinar, we can't use the chat function.
Okay.
I know, so, but if Miss Marie, if you wouldn't mind sending an email, then we can connect you with our Smart Save team.
And just one last comment. I always bring this up when we hear the COLA information, that this is a great reason why members should start a Smart Save account. You know, if you need to depend on that cost of living adjustment, why not be proactive and start saving on your own? And you can dip into that PERA Smart Save account as you need it.
Thank you, Karen. So Karen, we have to give another shout out to her. She is our Smart Save Deferred Compensation Program Manager. And the tons of benefits to opening a Smart Save account. So we hope that you consider doing that if you already haven't. So thank you, Miss Karen. Let's see, any other questions from folks? I don't see any other hands raised. Miss Juanita, I know you mentioned you had one more question. If you would like to go ahead and ask that, we'll consider that our last question of the day, and we'll let you guys get back. Actually, we do have another person that just raised their hand. Mr. Jose Vega, I'm going to go ahead and allow you to go ahead and ask your question. And all you need to do is go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, so I was just curious. I worked as an intern with the Department of Game and Fish before I got hired. So I spent 3 months there. I'm not seeing that time. I'm pretty sure I didn't cash out that retirement. Is there any way to audit that, or should it be showing up in my account?
Miss Christina, would you like me to take that?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Absolutely. So thank you, Jose, for your question. There are actually certain types of hiring positions that are excludable under the PERA Act. They include things like student employees, temporary employees who are only being hired to work in a position scheduled to last 9 or less months. Those individuals who are part-time working consistently less than 20 hours a week. And so like you, I worked for a PERA-related entity as a student employee, and none of that time counts, unfortunately. And so there's not a way to get that specific period of time back into your account. If you went back and scrutinized your check stubs, if you still had them from way back when, you'll see you didn't actually pay PERA contributions because you were not eligible to participate in PERA during that window of time. So unfortunately, that's probably not the news you were looking for, but there are other types of service credit you could purchase if you absolutely need those months back in your account to retire sooner. So let us know if you have any additional questions about that.
All right, it looks like we have, thank you, Miss Christina, a couple of other hands raised. So Monica, I'm going to go ahead and allow you to go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, I have a question that's very similar to the PERA. Okay, so I worked at UNM with EDRA. When I retire, because I'm within 3 years and months left to retire. And so once I submit this request form, will those hours show up in additional to PERA? Because they're EDRA.
Yes, and Monica, just for clarification, are you referring to the Educational Retirement Association or ERB?
It's with UNM.
Yes. So because UNM is under the Educational Retirement Association, sometimes often referred to as the Educational Retirement Board, that is a separate retirement system. But what we will ask for you to do is to submit a PERA request form. And I can go ahead and bring that up here shortly. And what would happen is we would want you to get a total service credit verification. And what will happen is you'll want to select ERB, ERA. And then at that point, what that will tell us here at PERA is that you are a reciprocity member. So what we'll do is we'll talk or communicate with our fellow colleagues at the Educational Retirement Board. And then what will happen is they'll do an audit on your account and provide us with those years of service. And then what will happen is we'll provide you with a letter just showing your service credit with ERB and then your service credit with PERA.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so what you'll want to do is go onto our website, which is www.nmpera.org. Under our forms, kits, and handbooks, you are going to find our PERA request form. And then on our PERA request form, like I mentioned, you're going to want to notify us at PERA that you are an ERB reciprocity member, meaning you have service credit with them that can be combined towards retirement eligibility. And you'll want to select total service credit verification and select ERA, ERB on this form as well. Once you've done that, then you can go ahead and send it to PERA, and then it'll take about, close to 45 days, if not 60 business days. And then we'll provide you with a mailed letter showing both agencies' service credit.
Okay, even though I have still like 3 years plus left, do I still submit that?
Yes, you'll still want to submit that. And then if you already haven't done so, if you're within 3 years of retirement eligibility, you'll also want to select estimate of benefits. When you're within 3 years of retirement eligibility, you can request up to 2 estimate of benefits a year. And it shows you what you will be receiving in retirement. And it'll also include all of your ERB, ERA service credit, as long as you just click where it says reciprocity and you click ERA, ERB, that'll notify us that we do have to communicate with them to get your years of service from them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're very welcome. All right, Monica, I see that you have your hand raised, or let's see. I think Monica, we just got to you. I know Lynn. So Miss Lynn, I'm going to go ahead and allow you to ask your question. And all you have to do is unmute yourself.
Got it. Thank you. What I'm wondering is, will we receive a notification of the exact amount I'm due this year, this summer for my first COLA? Will we be getting a letter saying the amount that we will be receiving, and when can we expect it?
Yes, Lynn. I'm actually going to defer to either Greg or Anna.
Yeah, I'll take it, Christina. Yeah, so you will be getting a letter probably about right around July 20th. And what that letter will show you is what your June benefit was and what your July benefit will be. So you should get those letters before you actually get your July benefit. And it'll show you a breakdown with deductions and the COLA, and you'll see the difference between those two.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Lynn. Very great question. So Juanita, I know you had one more question, and I will go ahead and we'll take that as our last question for today's seminar.
Well, thank you so much. And you guys may have said this already, but I missed the beginning. Is this new rule COLA work as a compounding, as opposed to the old one that non-compounding is a 13 check that people were saying?
If you want, Christina, I can answer this.
Thank you, Greg.
So yes, Juanita. So any cost of living adjustment going forward, short of a change in state statute, will be compounding. So the 3 years of 13th check, they will not compounding from this point forward, unless the legislature intervenes, will be compounding.
That seems like a better benefit, don't you think?
It is a great benefit, and it is extremely expensive. But yes, it is great.
Yeah, well, I have to do the math, but I think compounding is better than non-compounding. I don't know.
No, it definitely is.
Thank you so much, you guys.
Of course.
Thank you so much, Juanita, and all of you for being on with us and asking such great questions. Please reach out to us if you have any further questions or you would like for us to look in your personal account and provide you with more guidance. We didn't share earlier, but we definitely recommend at any point in your career, whether you maybe just started with PERA, with a PERA affiliated employer, or you're mid-career, with over 10 years of service, or you're getting ready to retire. We do have these web pages available. So wherever you fit in your PERA career, in each of these career stages, we have what you may need to know, whether, whatever stage you're in, next steps, when you can contact PERA or when you should contact PERA, and then any additional resources that, we thought would be valuable. So again, we have our early career, our mid-career, and our ready to retire web pages. So we definitely encourage you to get on that. And then our other seminars that come up, we have an early career, mid-career, and a ready to retire seminar. So please sign up at any time if you would like to attend either virtually or in person. And we would love to see you here at PERA and visit with us. So again, please reach out if you have any questions, and thank you so much for being on with us, and thank you to all of our speakers this afternoon as well. We hope you have a wonderful Memorial weekend and enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you all.